January 7, 1943, dawned over the scorched deserts of North Africa with a brittle chill in the air, the rising sun casting long, sharp shadows across the rugged terrain below. The low hum of engines soon escalated into the harsh roar of dozens of aircraft carving arcs through the pale morning sky. Jagdgeschwader 53, the famed Picard Squadron, launched a coordinated strike against an incoming formation of American B-25 Mitchell bombers, their polished fuselages glinting in the weak sunlight. Initially, the Luftwaffe pilots regarded the escorts with barely concealed amusement. The twin-boom silhouettes of the Lockheed P-38 Lightning seemed almost comical, a curiosity rather than a credible threat. One German pilot later wrote of the moment, "We thought them awkward and easy to dodge. Their design was laughable, as if built by children rather than engineers. The first passes were swift and aggressive. Messerschmitt Bf 109s dived in formation, anticipating the familiar pattern of the Mitchell's thin defensive screen. But the P-38s, powered by twin Allison V1710 engines and armed with concentrated nose-mounted firepower of one 20mm cannon and four 50 caliber machine guns, reacted with precision and deadly speed. Each Lightning was a single coordinated weapon, capable of firing a concentrated stream of lead that German pilots had not encountered in this theater before. What began as confident strafing runs quickly devolved into disarray. Bf 109s and even Focke-Wulf FW190s found themselves hit by unexpected bursts of fire from angles that defied conventional attack strategies. The Luftwaffe's experience in dogfighting with slower, single-engine aircraft offered little advantage against the Lightning's startling acceleration and tight turning radius. Reports suggested that by mid-morning, the German formation had suffered several losses, with pilots abandoning their initial arrogance for sheer disbelief. One veteran later reflected, "We had trained for years to dominate the skies. Yet these Americans, with what we deemed an odd contraption, were decimating us before we could even press the attack." The psychological impact was immediate and profound. The P-38, once mocked in briefing rooms as an untested novelty, now radiated a sense of menace. The Germans had underestimated not only its performance, but the skill and tactical discipline of the pilots who flew it. By the end of the encounter, not a single B-25 had fallen to enemy fire, while multiple German aircraft lay smoking or spiraling to the desert floor below. This engagement in the skies above North Africa marked more than a tactical surprise. It was a turning point in perception. Allied reports highlighted the Lightning's versatility, from bomber escort to ground attack, while the Luftwaffe recalibrated its approach to engaging American formations. The twin-boom fighter's reputation grew, influencing tactics and morale in theaters far beyond the sands of North Africa. From this moment, the P-38 evolved from a curiosity into a symbol of American air power, its presence reshaping Luftwaffe strategies and forcing a grudging respect among seasoned German pilots. The lessons learned that January morning would echo through subsequent campaigns, setting the stage for the Lightning's expanded role in missions across Europe and the Pacific, where its blend of speed, firepower, and resilience would continue to challenge Axis assumptions at every turn. In the late 1930s, as Europe edged toward the inevitability of war, American engineers at Lockheed began sketching the lines of a radical new fighter, one that would challenge conventional notions of what a combat aircraft could be. Under the meticulous guidance of Clarence Kelly Johnson, the P-38 Lightning took shape, a striking twin-boom silhouette with a central fuselage nacelle cradling the pilot and a formidable array of armament. Its appearance alone was enough to elicit skepticism among seasoned aviators, yet every aspect of its design had a purpose. Twin Allison V1710 engines roared at full throttle, propelling the craft past 400 miles per hour and granting it a combat radius exceeding 500 miles. Unmatched by most contemporary fighters, the P-38's offensive capabilities were concentrated in its nose. 450 caliber Browning M2 machine guns and a 20mm Hispano-Suiza cannon fired in a precise unified pattern. Unlike wing-mounted weapons that required synchronization and aiming adjustments, this central cluster allowed pilots to deliver lethal, concentrated fire with unparalleled accuracy, an innovation that would prove decisive in bomber escort and strafing missions alike. Its twin-boom configuration was not merely aesthetic. It provided stability at high speeds and altitudes, reducing aerodynamic turbulence and granting pilots an edge during prolonged dogfights. Yet early flights revealed a formidable adversary of a different kind: compressibility issues at high velocity, which caused control surfaces to become temporarily unresponsive during dives. Engineers addressed these challenges through structural tweaks and aerodynamic refinements, gradually transforming the P-38 from a promising prototype into a battlefield-ready war machine. By the outbreak of global conflict, the Lightning had demonstrated versatility that few fighters of the era could match. In North Africa, Europe, and later the Pacific, the P-38 excelled as both escort and interceptor, outpacing many enemy aircraft while delivering concentrated firepower with deadly efficiency. Reports from pilots highlighted its ability to sustain high-speed maneuvers without losing control, a testament to the foresight of its design and the ingenuity of its engineering team. Despite the initial skepticism from Allied planners and Axis observers alike, the P-38's performance soon silenced doubts, earning a reputation as a highly adaptable and formidable weapon of war. Its introduction marked not just a technical achievement, but a strategic shift, providing the Allies with a fighter capable of dominating both the skies above and the ground below. The P-38 Lightning represented a profound break from the conventional fighter designs of its time. While most Allied and Axis aircraft relied on a single fuselage and engine, the P-38 adopted a daring twin-boom layout that immediately distinguished it in silhouette and function. Each boom housed one of its powerful Allison V1710 engines, whose tandem-mounted, contra-rotating propellers counteracted the torque that often made single-engine fighters difficult to control at high speeds. Pilots quickly discovered that this configuration allowed the Lightning to slice through the sky in straight, level flight without constant rudder corrections, a feature that proved invaluable during long-range missions or high-speed interceptions. At the heart of the aircraft lay the central nacelle, a streamlined pod holding the cockpit and the P-38's formidable armament. Positioned near the aircraft's center of gravity, the pilot enjoyed enhanced visibility, able to monitor both the airspace ahead and the target zone below with unprecedented clarity. The concentrated firepower of 450 caliber Browning machine guns and a 20mm Hispano-Suiza cannon was aligned directly with the nose, enabling precise and devastating attacks on both airborne opponents and ground targets. This placement eliminated the need for convergence adjustments common in wing-mounted guns, giving pilots a deadly advantage in dogfights and strafing runs. The P-38's design also accommodated a pressurized cockpit in later models, a feature that allowed pilots to operate at high altitudes with reduced fatigue and improved mission endurance. Combined with a combat radius exceeding 500 miles, the Lightning became an ideal platform, not only for fighter and escort duties, but also for reconnaissance missions deep behind enemy lines. Its versatility astonished both Allied commanders and Axis observers. Luftwaffe pilots who encountered it described a fighter that could appear suddenly, maintain relentless pressure, and vanish without warning, a machine that defied their expectations of what a conventional fighter could do. Through its twin booms, centralized firepower, and aerodynamic precision, the P-38 exemplified a new era of aerial engineering, a blend of raw power and sophisticated design that would shape the air war for years to come. In April 1942, the P-38 Lightning embarked on its first operational missions over the vast expanses of the South Pacific. These early sorties were conducted not as fighter sweeps, but as reconnaissance flights, with cameras installed in the central nacelle, capturing detailed images of Japanese installations, supply lines, and fleet movements. The humid, salt-tinged air clung to pilots in open cockpits, while the constant drone of twin Allison engines accompanied the distant echoes of artillery and naval bombardments. Observers on the ground would later marvel at the speed and precision with which the P-38 could slip across enemy-held skies, photographing vital targets and returning to base largely unchallenged. The aircraft's agility and range quickly demonstrated its potential, prompting commanders to adapt it for more direct combat roles. By November 1942, The P-38 had crossed theaters, arriving in North Africa during Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French-held territory. In the skies above Algeria and Morocco, Lightning squadrons were tasked with escorting B-17 and B-25 bombers and intercepting Axis aircraft attempting to disrupt the landings. German pilots, initially dismissive of the twin-boom design, anticipated an easy engagement against what they perceived as an awkward newcomer. Their surprise was immediate and profound. The P-38s maneuvered with precision, their concentrated nose-mounted armament delivering bursts of deadly fire that shattered Luftwaffe expectations. Reports from Jagdgeschwader 53 pilots later conveyed a mixture of shock and frustration, acknowledging that their usual tactics were insufficient against an aircraft that combined high-speed interception with long-range endurance. These early engagements underscored the Lightning's versatility. In the Pacific, it had proven indispensable for reconnaissance. In North Africa, it began to establish itself as a fighter that could protect bombers, challenge experienced enemy pilots, and influence the flow of aerial combat. Its speed, firepower, and unusual silhouette demanded respect, and forced Axis forces to reconsider both tactics and assumptions about American air power. By the end of 1942, the P-38 had laid the foundation for a growing reputation that would follow it across multiple theaters of World War II, heralding a new era in which its combination of range, firepower, and adaptability would make it one of the Allies' most formidable aerial tools. In the early months of encountering the P-38 Lightning, German pilots of the Luftwaffe greeted the aircraft with skepticism and a measure of derision. Its twin-boom design, so strikingly different from the familiar single-engine fighters like the Bf-109 and FW-190, seemed awkward and almost impractical. Many reports from the front lines initially described it as clumsy or unthreatening, a machine that could be dismissed in the heat of combat. Yet as the spring of 1943 gave way to summer, these dismissals began to fade. Allied forces were deploying the P-38 in increasing numbers, and intelligence reports arriving at Luftwaffe headquarters started to carry a note of caution. Analysts detailed the aircraft's ability to escort bombers across hundreds of miles of hostile airspace, its concentrated nose-mounted firepower, capable of overwhelming enemy fighters, and a surprising maneuverability that belied its unconventional form. Accounts from Luftwaffe pilots themselves began to reflect a dawning respect tinged with frustration. Dogfights over North Africa, Sicily, and later Italy revealed that the Lightning could accelerate away from diving attacks, deliver precise bursts of fire, and maintain tight formations to protect bombers, leaving German fighters struggling to adapt. One German pilot recorded that attempts to engage a P-38 often ended with his aircraft outgunned or forced into evasive maneuvers he had not anticipated. The tone of official communications shifted noticeably. Where once the P-38 had been casually noted, reports now treated it with the sobriety reserved for a true adversary. Across both European and Pacific theaters, the aircraft's growing presence was impossible to ignore. By mid-1943, what had begun as curiosity and skepticism among the Luftwaffe had solidified into wary acknowledgement. The P-38 Lightning was no longer an oddity to be mocked. It was a formidable opponent, capable of altering the course of aerial engagements and demanding respect from even the most seasoned Axis pilots. The production of the P-38 Lightning represented a monumental effort in American industrial ingenuity during World War II. At Lockheed's Burbank facility, engineers and factory workers labored tirelessly to bring Kelly Johnson's radical design from blueprint to battlefield-ready aircraft. The complexity of the twin-boom configuration, coupled with the integration of high-performance Allison engines and concentrated nose-mounted armament, presented unprecedented manufacturing challenges. To meet the urgent demands of a global war, Lockheed pioneered modular construction techniques, allowing sections of the aircraft to be built simultaneously and then assembled with precision. This approach streamlined production and minimized delays, a crucial factor as the Allies expanded operations across multiple theaters. By war's end, over 10,000 P-38s had rolled off American assembly lines, a figure that placed the Lightning among the most numerous U.S. fighters of the conflict. Its deployment was equally ambitious. From the deserts of North Africa to the skies over Europe and the sprawling reaches of the Pacific, the P-38 proved capable of operating from forward airstrips, often hundreds of miles from supply depots. The aircraft's long-range capabilities and versatility in both escort and reconnaissance roles made it indispensable for a variety of missions, enabling sustained pressure against Axis forces. The logistical feat of keeping these aircraft operational, maintaining engines, armaments and airframes across distant and often inhospitable locations underscored not only the soundness of the P-38's design but also the remarkable efficiency of American wartime production and support networks. The widespread presence of the Lightning in diverse theaters symbolized the convergence of technological innovation, industrial capacity, and strategic foresight, setting the stage for its growing dominance in the skies as the war progressed. Throughout World War II, the P-38 Lightning consistently proved its mettle across multiple theaters of conflict, demonstrating a versatility few aircraft of the era could match. In the dense tropical skies of the Solomon Islands, the Lightning became a decisive factor in intercepting Japanese bombers and fighters. Pilots maneuvered through humid, turbulent air, where the roar of twin Allison engines cut through the cacophony of naval gunfire and distant explosions. The P-38's concentrated firepower and superior speed allowed Allied pilots to disrupt enemy formations, protect key positions, and gain a critical edge in air superiority. Its performance in this campaign not only boosted morale, but also cemented its role as a reliable, multi-role fighter. One of the most famous operations involving the Lightning occurred in April 1943, the mission to eliminate Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack. Flying hundreds of miles from their base, P-38 pilots executed a meticulously planned interception, navigating treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather to reach their target. The successful engagement resulted in Yamamoto's death, a strategic blow that reverberated across the Pacific and showcased the Lightning's exceptional long-range capabilities. In Europe, the P-38's adaptability was equally evident. Tasked with escorting bombers over heavily defended targets, the aircraft protected formations of B-17s and B-24s from Luftwaffe interceptors, while its pressurized cockpit and stable handling allowed pilots to conduct high-altitude reconnaissance missions with unprecedented clarity. The Lightning also undertook ground attack operations, strafing enemy convoys, rail lines and airfields, its nose-mounted cannon delivering precise and devastating fire. Across continents and oceans, the P-38's ability to perform multiple roles effectively made it an invaluable asset, validating the foresight of its designers and confirming early assessments that it was more than a novelty. It was a highly capable, multi-role weapon of war, capable of shaping the outcome of battles in both the Pacific and European theaters. The P-38 Lightning exerted an influence that went far beyond its physical capabilities, shaping the psychological landscape of aerial warfare. For Allied pilots, stepping into the cockpit of the twin-boom fighter was an affirmation of American ingenuity. The roar of the twin Allison engines, the precise bite of the nose-mounted cannon, and the aircraft's nimble handling at high speeds instilled a profound sense of confidence. Each successful mission, whether escorting bombers across hostile skies or striking strategic targets, reinforced the belief that the United States possessed an aircraft capable of dominating the air and redefining combat tactics. Morale soared, and the Lightning became a symbol of technological prowess, demonstrating that innovation could directly translate into battlefield superiority. For Axis pilots, the psychological impact was starkly different. The first encounters with the P-38 were often met with incredulity, its unconventional design dismissed as a novelty. Yet, repeated engagements revealed the Lightning's lethal combination of speed, firepower, and endurance. German and Japanese aviators reported difficulties in anticipating its maneuvers. Attacks that had been routine against single-engine fighters were suddenly fraught with danger. Luftwaffe reports began to emphasize caution, noting that the P-38 could appear unexpectedly, strike decisively, and vanish before conventional counterattacks could be mounted. The aircraft forced a re-evaluation of strategy, compelling Axis commanders to adapt their approaches, sometimes even diverting experienced pilots from other missions to deal with this new threat. In the broader context of the war, the P-38's psychological presence was as significant as its physical impact. Its very sight in the sky altered decision-making on both sides. Allied pilots gained confidence in their capacity to achieve air superiority, while Axis pilots approached engagements with a heightened awareness of the Lightning's capabilities. By changing expectations and influencing tactical thinking, the P-38 not only secured victories in combat, but also reshaped perceptions, asserting itself as a formidable symbol of Allied air power that demanded respect in every theater of operation. The deployment of the P-38 Lightning brought with it a profound shift in both tactical execution and strategic planning for Allied air operations. Its exceptional long-range capabilities allowed pilots to strike deep into enemy territory, targeting supply convoys, rail networks, and communication hubs that were previously considered beyond the reach of Allied fighters. By extending the operational reach of bomber formations, the Lightning enabled precision attacks on critical infrastructure, hampering Axis logistical operations and creating ripple effects that slowed reinforcements and disrupted frontline coordination. The sight of a twin-boom silhouette emerging from the clouds over key supply routes became a source of unease for enemy forces, signaling the reach and persistence of Allied air power. In bomber escort missions, the P-38 proved indispensable. Flying alongside B-17s and B-24s, its concentrated firepower and agile maneuvering kept Luftwaffe interceptors at bay, significantly reducing bomber losses and enhancing the effectiveness of strategic bombing campaigns. Beyond escort duties, the Lightning's versatility allowed it to perform reconnaissance flights over enemy territory, provide close air support during ground operations, and conduct aggressive fighter sweeps, often forcing the Luftwaffe to respond in ways that stretched their resources thin. Axis commanders, confronted with the P-38's multifaceted threat, were compelled to allocate experienced pilots and aircraft to counter it, sometimes at the expense of other critical fronts. Strategically, the P-38 became more than a fighter. It was a force multiplier. Its presence demanded constant vigilance, altered enemy deployments, and contributed to the broader momentum of Allied operations across Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific. By combining speed, firepower, endurance, and adaptability, the Lightning not only ensured tactical successes in individual engagements, but also shaped the strategic landscape, forcing Axis powers to confront an adversary whose reach and impact extended far beyond the immediate battlefield. In doing so, the P-38 cemented its role as a cornerstone of Allied air strategy, proving that technological innovation could decisively influence the broader war effort. The deployment of the P-38 Lightning brought with it a profound shift in both tactical execution and strategic planning for Allied air operations. Its exceptional long-range capabilities allowed pilots to strike deep into enemy territory, targeting supply convoys, rail networks, and communication hubs that were previously considered beyond the reach of Allied fighters. By extending the operational reach of bomber formations, the Lightning enabled precision attacks on critical infrastructure, hampering Axis logistical operations and creating ripple effects that slowed reinforcements and disrupted frontline coordination. The sight of a twin-boom silhouette emerging from the clouds over key supply routes became a source of unease for enemy forces, signaling the reach and persistence of Allied air power. In bomber escort missions, the P-38 proved indispensable, flying alongside B-17s and B-24s. Its concentrated firepower and agile maneuvering kept Luftwaffe interceptors at bay, significantly reducing bomber losses and enhancing the effectiveness of strategic bombing campaigns. Beyond escort duties, the Lightning's versatility allowed it to perform reconnaissance flights over enemy territory, provide close air support during ground operations, and conduct aggressive fighter sweeps, often forcing the Luftwaffe to respond in ways that stretched their resources thin. Axis commanders, confronted with the P-38's multifaceted threat, were compelled to allocate experienced pilots and aircraft to counter it, sometimes at the expense of other critical fronts. Strategically, the P-38 became more than a fighter. It was a force multiplier. Its presence demanded constant vigilance, altered enemy deployments, and contributed to the broader momentum of Allied operations across Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific. By combining speed, firepower, endurance, and adaptability, the Lightning not only ensured tactical successes in individual engagements, but also shaped the strategic landscape, forcing Axis powers to confront an adversary whose reach and impact extended far beyond the immediate battlefield. In doing so, the P-38 cemented its role as a cornerstone of Allied air strategy, proving that technological innovation could decisively influence the broader war effort. Even a revolutionary aircraft like the P-38 Lightning was not without its challenges. Early models encountered aerodynamic phenomena that tested both pilots and engineers. Compressibility effects at high speeds could cause control surfaces to stiffen, making dives treacherous and potentially catastrophic. In response, designers introduced dive flaps and other aerodynamic modifications, restoring stability and allowing pilots to exploit the aircraft's full-speed potential without compromising safety. These enhancements were critical during both combat engagements and training flights, ensuring that the Lightning could maintain its advantage in high-speed maneuvering and steep dives. The twin-engine configuration, a hallmark of the P-38's design, offered redundancy and formidable power, but it also introduced new logistical and maintenance hurdles. Engines and propellers had to be meticulously synchronized, and any damage to one power plant required rapid, skilled attention to prevent operational failure. To address these demands, field maintenance teams developed specialized procedures and modular repair techniques, allowing damaged aircraft to return to service with remarkable speed. Crews in remote Pacific airstrips or forward North African bases learned to replace engines, troubleshoot electrical systems, and repair airframes under adverse conditions, turning what might have been a vulnerability into a manageable operational factor. Through a combination of engineering ingenuity and practical field solutions, the P-38 evolved beyond its initial limitations. Each modification, from dive flaps to streamlined maintenance protocols, enhanced the aircraft's reliability and combat effectiveness, allowing pilots to focus on mission objectives rather than technical uncertainties. These adaptations ensured that the Lightning retained its role as a versatile, high-performance fighter across multiple theaters, capable of meeting the dynamic challenges of World War II aerial combat while continuing to push the boundaries of Allied air power.